Welcome back, Red Spotters. Another show here on the Red Spotlight Podcast. I'm your host today, Alexis J. Soto, joined by the usuals. I have here Mr. Peter Martinez, Ms. Alexys Moreno, and Mr. David Francisco. Kyle was supposed to be here, but unfortunately he had other obligations to attend, mainly sitting outside and drinking iced coffee, which, you know what, I can't blame him considering what we have going on. That's just a guess. I don't know exactly what he's doing, but, you know, there's that. I assume everyone is alive. I'm not sure if they're fine, but I mean, that may be a stretch. Let's be real here. But yeah, this is our second installment of our Legend of Korra series as part of our longer Avatar segment. Last time we talked about season 1, the first 14 episodes or so, and I feel it was a really good conversation. It actually flowed really well. But today is kind of the main event of this series because season 2, without question, is the most controversial season of the Avatar mythos, if you will, especially of this show in particular. It has some kind of notoriety, as I am sure David, Alexis, and Peter will fill in the gaps with some stuff they've seen on, you know, the interwebs. When it comes to some particular, hatred thrown at this season in particular. And I was going to summarize and attempt, to capture all the things that happened this season, but too much happened, and I just admitted off air that I'm having a hard time remembering all the things that happened. So I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. I'm going to throw it to Peter.
Okay.
By all means, Mr. Professor, take it away.
All right, so what am I supposed to say? Summarize
whatever the hell you want.
Okay.
Yeah,
no.
try and summarize it.
It's about shit. I don't know. Spirits. Okay, this is my issue with the season. Let's get it.
Okay.
Why beat around the bush? This is the season. Well, just to start from the top, that pretty much everyone hates.
I mean, pretty much.
Seemingly pretty on brand for me, though. I agree. Just not for any of the reasons why people actually hate this season. Most people really like the second half, and they like 2 little episodes in particular towards the second half of the season. And those 2 little episodes in particular are where I feel the season just plummets and it just becomes shit. And I hate the second half of this season. But most people hate the first half of this season, in which I actually really kind of like the first half, and I actually think they were building something that was really cool and they threw it away in the second half. I have no idea why, but just to talk about what they were building in that first half of the season, they move away at the very start of the season. All our heroes move away from Republic City to go to a water tribe festival, and that's where Korra goes to see her dad again, who's leader of the Southern Water Tribe, and then his brother, the leader of the Northern Water Tribe, it comes as well. And what's so great about that season? Oh, and a lot of shit happened, and basically there's a Water Tribe civil war that goes on. Which is very interesting. I actually thought the idea of a water tribe civil war is very interesting. But what's at the heart of what makes it interesting at first is sort of, because like I said, the first season, I think it's like the whole idea, I believe, of Korra is about all of these issues that pop up once you hit the modern world. Which is what Korra is, hitting the modern world, moving from the old world to the new world. And what's interesting is, and they touches it even in the first episode, is, religion and tradition versus modernity, or whatever the fuck the word is, and that sort of clash, because you have the Southern Water tribe that's kind of like spirits schmirits, and everything is kind of getting modernized, and the Northern Water tribe is all mad. It's like, oh, you're making a mockery of our lifelong traditions, and it's sort of this really interesting juxtaposition between the two, and this struggle, coming into the modern world, and the way that, and there's so much I actually really like about the first half, because Korra just sort of is torn between these two, and there's no clear answers as to where her alliance should align in the beginning, and then she really can't come in. She's a character that's so used to just coming in and punching her way out of situations. And this is a situation that she can't punch her way out of, because any way she leans could just spark the situation even further worse. And it could look really bad either way. Like, she can make the tensions worse. And I think there's even a point where she talks to her mother, and her mother's like, these issues have been here for like years. This is, honestly, you're the Avatar and all, but this is probably above you. And I like all of that stuff I really loved, and I thought was really interesting. And I'll just shut up right there and just see what you guys think.
Just real quick, I had a point of clarification. I had mentioned before at the beginning, I was having a difficult time remembering all that happened. I legit forgot that even happened. Up until you just mentioned it. I forgot
the second half of the season just abandoned all of it.
It's completely gone. By the time we get to the end of the season, my mind's on like other things.
First half never even happened. It's crazy.
I literally forgot all of that. I really did. And you're like, wait, oh, yeah, I remember watching that. And then it just dropped off the face of the earth, it seemed like. All the things you said, yeah, I agree. There's some interesting stuff there too. As far as the first half is concerned, I wasn't entirely in love with it. There were some ongoing issues. Well, I guess to me, the thing that I remember, I think, enjoying the least, and I think you alluded to this earlier in the previous installment when we talked about season 1, and that would be the Korra Mako Asami thing.
Oh my god. This is where it's just the absolute worst. I don't care. I don't care. This entire season, I don't. Because they immediately just butt heads and then fall apart. And then they spend the whole season not really thinking about it. Or just giving a shit. And then they try to force the love triangle back in. Yeah, it's so forced.
Yeah, it feels really forced, but like at the same time, it does. I'll give them credit in that it does feel like a very real relationship. Like this,
and that it sucks. I mean, that points for realism there.
Yeah.
Maybe, but like, stop, you stupid cat. Whereas in the first season, it felt like the characters really cared. So you cared about like, and even though a lot of the shit was like dumb teenage stuff, the dumb teenagers that you cared about it. So you as the audience member cared about it. But here, it really felt that like they were going through the motions and they were just doing it because they had to. Like every once in a while, they're like, oh yeah, there is someone I'm supposed to be maybe dating, right? Oh yeah, I guess
because it was it was so spread out, and it lasted the entirety of the season. I think they break up Mako and Korra
like at the beginning.
They break up officially at the last episode of this season, and I think part of what took the wind out of the sails of anyone being invested in that is if we thought the ensemble of Korra was large in season 1, it gets larger in season 2. There are so many characters scattered at different points throughout this world, and it's hard to keep track of all of these things. And I feel like part of, on top of you not caring about the dynamic because of how poorly it's handled, you forget it even happens. I think I remember feeling like, we're still doing this? By the time we got to like halfway through season 2, and I'm like, I didn't enjoy this before. I'm enjoying this less now. Why are we coming back to this? And then there's this whole thing where she loses her memories, and then Asami and Mako get back, I guess.
But
and
they
then
don't. They just kind of kiss once, and then it's just dropped completely.
Also, like Mako is shit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, I feel like they took the complaints from season 1 about how Mako's kind of boring, so they forced him to become like a detective cop. And it's just... First of all, I didn't even know non-meta benders could become cops.
I forgot that too.
Yeah. And it's like this whole... It really does feel like... You know what it feels like? Again, it's funny because he's the love interest. In Batman v Superman, how they gave Lois Lane, like, figure out what this bullet is. They gave Mako the Lois Lane story of trying to figure out what happened to this bullet. And it's like, oh, the bullet's actually about the bad guy. And it's like, yeah, no shit. And that was basically his story too. It turns out the bad guy did it. Oh yeah, no, fuck, for real? Well, to be fair, he didn't find out the bad guy. He found out, what's his name did? Varric. By the way, I like Varric.
He's
great.
Too.
Jolene, do the thing.
Yeah.
Not Jolene.
Jolene.
Is it Jolene?
Julie.
I knew it was something like that.
Jolie.
Not Bolin.
It was something. I was right. There was a J.
No, I mean, I feel like, well, I think pretty resoundingly, we're going to keep coming back to Varric as a complete joy throughout any scene he's in any part of the show. But yeah, I was surprised. I mean, I think like they literally, I mean, Varric is Howard Stark from the MCU. I mean,
Yeah.
it literally is that character, or that caricature, if you will.
Well, he's well, Howard Stark was based on what's his name in real life? Shit, what was his name? It was a real life inventor, movie maker. I'm gonna Google it. Go ahead, keep going.
All right. Anyway, no, but he it's interesting. When he's first introduced, you're not really sure what to make of him or what they're going to go, but it's just pure it's just pure hilarity
Howard Hughes.
as it goes on. Howard Hughes, okay. No, I feel like Varric perhaps may be the highlight of the season. At least when I think back to him, I have a smile on my face, so no, that stuff works really well. I know because you weren't there, Peter, because by that point, I feel like we had lost connection. But when we had finished recording last week, I had asked someone, all right, any famous quotes from this season we can use as a title? We didn't use it because it was the wrong season, but I think someone had said, Julie, do the thing. And I just immediately laughed because, oh, that's right. That, Julie, do the thing with those two. And yeah, I feel like the comedy with them is pretty, maybe the only consistent thing I feel throughout the season in terms of how great it is. And at this moment, I feel like we're going in so many different directions. Well, you were saying about Mako and Asami and Korra. Is that what
well, David wanted to say something.
I'm sorry.
Well, I was
David.
just gonna go back to the Civil War part of it.
Got you. Yeah.
Yeah. But I just wanted to say, like, I was enjoying that aspect of the season. Like, it was really cool. Like, we're actually seeing now what the Avatar is supposed to be doing in this world. How the Avatar is supposed to, like, handle certain situations.
And how complicated it can get for the Avatar.
And it kind of, well, I think they tried, at least the writers tried to, like, show the differences now of this Avatar's journey, Korra's journey, and that, Aang's supposed to become a super powerful being, but Korra, she is the super powerful being, but can't do anything.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think that's what they were trying to do in the beginning, but it just kind of went
think of Korra
somewhere else.
If Korra was tasked with bringing down the Fire Lord Ozai, like, she'd be like, fuck yeah. Like, kill him. I'll roast him
She'd
alive.
agree with all the past avatars.
Yeah, she wouldn't be seeking help. She'd be like, no, yeah, totally. Like, fuck this guy. She'd be full throttle with everything going on then, because it's morally a lot easier for someone like her who's just like, I need to punch my way to victory. Whereas with Aang, that's not in his nature so much, so he struggles a bit with that. Whereas here, her nature is trying to punch her way to victory, but she's constantly faced with issues where that's just not the way you're going to be able to solve the problem. And that's why I thought like the Water Tribe Civil War was perfect for that. Because there's that one point where they're in like the middle of the street, and I don't know, like the two water tribes in the streets are about to like get into a little skerfuffle, about to fight each other. And then she tries to tell them both to back down. And then one of them's like, hey, why are you taking their side? And then she's like, I'm not taking their side. And they're like, yeah, she's with us. She's like, I'm not taking anyone's side. And then everyone's like, you suck. And she's just like, fuck, like, I just want to punch something, but I can't. And that's just great. Yeah, you know, like, and then they drop it completely.
They drop it.
Well, a lot of it also isn't, you know, there's a lot of good stuff in terms of...
and as far as characters, I like her cousins.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I think they're so annoying. I'm sorry.
They work for me better in the next season, but for the most part, they're kind of they were fine. I didn't care one way or the other.
I like them.
So that's two different reactions right there. I didn't care about it. Alexis didn't like them, and Peter loved it. Okay, I mean they were fun at times, but they were there.
The Bolin stuff.
Of course he loves them. They're mean.
I mean Bolin, yeah, but not the okay. The thing
I like them towards the end.
That I like them better toward that part. There's a lot of stuff there too. Also, I mean, you have it as far as the relationships. There's a lot of stuff that happens. For one, in regard to that civil war, we see a much more complicated dynamic between Korra and her father throughout the entirety of this season, which then is kind of, you know, entirely made worse by Unalaq, his brother's presence, who's the main villain of this season, or one of the main villains, shall we say, at least this part. But then that also sets off a different reaction because Unalaq kind of breaks up Tenzin and Korra, and then Tenzin has its own separate storyline with his brothers.
Its own the whole season. You know what I really like too? I guess it's not unique to this season, but they really bring it in this season. Is that she has parents and like a family, and so many of these stories are just like they're an orphan, and it's the reason why so many, I think, kid hero save the world type shit are always made orphans is because it's like, well, what do you do with the parents? It's a lot easier to just get the parents out of the way and just have the kids do their own thing. But it's like a lot of kids have parents, you know. I don't know what to tell you. Everyone's born somehow. So I like the idea that, she is the avatar, this chosen one. And what is it like when you're kind of the parent of the chosen one? Like, the Korra's dad and how, like, he acts, you know, and the mom, and then like the way she has an uncle. I don't know, I like that dynamic because you so rarely see it in these types of stories.
And I actually liked, they didn't go into it, but I like that scene where you talked about where she stops a fight in the middle of the street and they're going like, why are you on their side, why aren't you on our side, and all that. And I kind of like how the dad like just came right in. He's like, hey, chill everyone. And it just kind of shows, like, she's the avatar, but her dad, though, like, is the one in charge, the one that, like, basically commands respect from everyone. And I kind of wish they would have, like, gone into that more. But no.
Well, it kind of does the Star Wars thing where it's like, yes, there's this larger political thing going on, but then the conflict is also very personal, right? Because it's not just a civil war between two tribes, you know, long-standing nations that have had, sort of been frenemies, some beef, then, come together in different times and eras. But it's also about in Korra having to deal with those two things, but also her having to deal with, on one side, her dad, and the other side, her uncle. And both represent very different outlooks and futures for their respective tribes, but also different outlooks on how Korra, views things and how she would want to be a avatar and how she would want to lead personally. So it's like it has the both, personal and outer level conflicts infused together, which are like the best kinds of stories for these kinds of things. Yeah. Probably shouldn't have dropped it at the midway point, you dumb motherfucker.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of things. Again, even if this other thing that I kind of wish I went into more, but when Unalak was arguing with Tenzin and Korra's dad about like she should train with me, like no, like I'm her teacher here, like she should stay with me and all that. And what I liked about that is that it shows just kind of just how different her situation is from past avatars. Because like when the person finds out that they're the avatar, they kind of get to do whatever they want, basically. Like they're supposed to travel the world, find like people who they can connect with that can teach them certain things, either the elements or certain spiritual knowledge of whatever nation that they're at. But her though, she just gets locked up and doesn't really get much of a choice, and that's kind of who she wants to be, someone who can make her own choices and all that. But this is one thing that I kind of want like others to understand, is that her situation as the avatar is completely different from Aang's and like even past ones.
Well, yeah, because I think it has everything to do with that new modern world where it's like, what is the role of the avatar now? In a place where, you can't just pop in, like what was his name? The one before Aang. Roku. Yeah, like he just popped into the Fire Lord when he started invading people, and it's like, hey, not cut that shit out or I will kill you. Korra can't do that. She can't pop up to, presidents and leaders and be like, do what I want or I'll kill you.
That would start a war.
That'll start, you have news stations, you have public opinions. Like, I don't know if it was in this one or in season 3 where she had polling, where she was polling
numbers.
Yeah, she had polling numbers.
Well, they had some of that stuff in season 1 with the council. There was a lot of politics there.
And it's like she can't. That's one of the big questions moving throughout this series. It's like, does this world need an avatar now? Like, does it really? And if they do, what role does she play now? Because she can't play the same role that her past lives did, because it's just it's not the same world.
I will say though, I was a little I was wondering where they were going to go with this, but I was a little upset with her when she fired Tenzin. It's like, fuck off, you old creep. I don't want you here anymore. And I was like, that was harsh. I mean, and then he had his own thing. I mean, to me, I really did enjoy a lot of the stuff with Tenzin and Kaya and Boomy. And yeah, they were setting up stuff with Janara, who I feel doesn't really arrive as a character until next season, although they try to this season. Again, more on that later on. With the whole spirit connection. But those interactions were enjoyable. Did feel bad for him, though.
Technically, they're new characters. The Boomy and Kaya. Because
I love the stuff with Tenzin. I mean, everything with Tenzin this entire show, I think, is amazing.
Yeah, Tenzin's like my favorite character.
Yeah. And, I mean, this season, I don't know, because, like, I can't say, like, which one I like more, because I feel like this one, just because it has a connection with Aang, like, I obviously love it.
Well, these
but,
are
like,
his children.
Season,
I mean, just on that level, it's just so fascinating seeing his children just talk about each other, about their family upbringing and everything.
Yeah, like, that's, and I so wish that Kyle was here, because I actually wanted to bring this up. because it's very interesting. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I think that, like, the thought of Aang not being a good parent, not that he wasn't a good parent, but just, like, not the best.
He wasn't perfect.
Parent.
When you're the Avatar, you have this
Yes.
expectation that you're the perfect, and this is a person who literally saved the world for all time. But then, as you know, he's still a human.
When it comes to personal things, it's like, okay,
He's
like,
a human, and he still had his own failings.
yes,
And-
and also
yeah.
like the way that he got his upbringing and stuff also like affected that, and all of the trauma that he lived through obviously affected that too. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up to Kyle is because, I mean, I'm bringing this up, but like it has nothing to do with it. But aside from like different plot points that happened, but in The Cursed Child, that was one of like the big things that Harry wasn't a good dad.
Oh.
Yeah. And I'm like, but like, I always kind of thought, like, yeah, like, that makes sense. He didn't have a good upbringing. He didn't have, like, he had examples and stuff, but he himself, like, never had that for himself, like, just him, you know?
I also feel
kind of a
people,
dick.
let's be real here. I think people have this tendency, especially when we're on the internet, to over-exaggerate things, especially when they're presented on screen as clearly being nuanced. Kaya and Bumi love their father.
Yeah.
They never at any point say he was terrible. But, I mean, all of us have siblings. I mean, we know what it's been like, that situation. And we know, like, hey, I mean, Tenzin, you were his favorite. I mean, you were the youngest, but you were his favorite, and because you're an airbender. And that made you more important than us. And that did hurt us. We still love him, but, I mean, that shit's real, because that happens. Like, it really happens.
Yeah. And then, but like, you also get that side of like the pressure that he is in to meet his dad's expectations that he put on him, and a whole freaking culture on his back. You know what I mean? Like, that's nuts.
What's interesting about that too is, like, we talked about this in the first season, but that extends to a lot of these characters, their personalities, you know, their interpersonal connections with the people around them. Like, one of the I can't remember at what point, I think it was the first season they talk about it, one of the big reasons him and what's her name didn't work out, Lin Beifong, is because he wanted kids. But I often wonder, were having kids that important to him, or was the continuation of the Air tribe that his father instilled in him that important, you know? If that sort of duty wasn't bestowed upon him, would he have been okay with not having kids and have remained, you know? So it's that kind of interesting character stuff that I really, really like about them. And you're right, Alexis. It's not that Aang was like this evil, terrible father. Yeah. It's just like they weren't a perfect family. He was important. He had a lot of shit to do. He may have.
Is there a real thing? Is there any such thing as a perfect family? Let's be real about that. Come on.
Yeah.
There is.
There is?
Oh my god.
All right. Well, what's an example of a perfect family in your eyes?
General Iroh, his mother, and Zuko the Fire Lord.
Wait, there's you're ignoring what
the history.
That lineage started 100-year war.
Well, I'm saying the ones that were currently alive during Korra, they were.
That's I mean, I will not agree with that because, but that's on you. But if you read the comics, I don't know about that.
Anyway, I feel like we all really enjoyed Tenzin, but I think that it's really a good dynamic. They give a lot of time with that Kaya and Bumi. They have different personalities. They're all hilarious, even. Yeah.
I also do like those little details that you see that you get of like how they were raised. Not just like from Aang, but it could have been from Katara.
Mm-hmm.
So Bumi, he's a non-airbender. He's a non-bender, and they said like, oh, you always put yourself in danger. Try to like keep up with us. You were always reckless and blah blah blah.
And I'm not sure if people forget real quick. And we all know Bumi, who he was named after King Bumi from the original series, but Kaya was named after Katara's mother.
Yeah. No.
Oh.
Yeah. No, I think it's her.
What was the grandmother's name?
Grand, isn't it?
No.
Well,
She had an actual name.
I don't know. I think Kaya was her mom though that was killed, right?
Yeah. Okay.
It would make sense why you would name after some, your murdered mother. I mean,
that she brings up 10 times.
But Bumi, he always I guess he would try to put himself in the center of attention in the family. But Kaya, being the middle child, she got to do whatever she want, and so you get that
the personalities are right there. Yeah, they kind of speak for themselves.
And they literally tell you this basically, like when she said, like, oh, I was the one that I came back to mom when dad died and all that. And it's like, because you were gone for like who knows how long trying to find yourself.
Oh yeah, apparently she just took off and did whatever. Yeah,
so I mean, it's basically how people always write middle child, is that they're just like, they know what it pays attention to them basically and just do whatever they want. It's a common thing.
It's hilarious to me. Tenzin, what perfect timing. Let's go on vacation in the middle of a civil war breaks out.
Was it?
Well, he just got fired, so might as well.
Yeah.
Well, there's that funny part where she comes back and she explains everything that happened, and Tenzin's just like, I knew it. And his siblings just stare at him like, shut the fuck up. But like with Bumi, him joining the Navy or whatever, that's probably really highly influenced with him just trying to impress his dad.
Yeah.
They have that one scene where he's talking
with
to
the statue of his
statue.
Father.
He's like, I'm sorry I wasn't a bender, but like I did what I could to protect.
Imagine how much man, that's like the one thing I wish that we did get was something with Sokka, especially with him, because I feel like they
probably had a good
really
relationship.
close. Yeah. Oh.
We get next to no Sokka in this whole show, which always really made me wonder what happened there.
Interesting, because he was alive when Korra was alive.
Yeah, immediately after Aang's death, basically, and then the reincarnation.
He was still alive. So, I don't know.
But
there's so many characters you just don't hear about because they're not central to the story.
Right. One of the things, just in reading about the chronology of all of this is that Aang died relatively young. Yes, he had 100 years... 100 plus because he was in that iceberg, but from what I read is the years caught up with him in the end. He died in his early 60s. Basically the human physiology of it, but because of the iceberg. I think
he was 162.
Yeah,
but like that's like plus the extra years.
Yeah.
right. And this is basically almost 2 decades after that happened. So it's like it's an interesting dynamic because you almost get the sense that there was a lot left to be said, and his death might have caught them unaware a little bit. I mean, 60-some is a little, especially since everybody else lived. Katara is still around.
And I don't know if you saw that post, they put, like, the age of, like, the past avatars, or, like, recent avatars, and they were all, like, I think, what's her name?
Kyoshi?
I think she was over 100 when she died.
She was over 200.
Oh, yeah. Damn.
But the water tribe...
But what's his name?
The water
he was in his
young
30s.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was because Avatar Yang Chen who was the heir, kind of fucked up. Apparently. She, like, kind of, I guess you could say, brought imbalance to the spirit world. And so that was Avatar Karuk's job now to kind of fix as much as he could. He spent a lot of his time in the spirit world, apparently, and since time kind of goes differently in the spirit world, he kind of lived older.
Was that the reason? I had no idea because they had no.
That's what I heard.
Okay.
I saw it on the internet. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that's it.
Yeah. Before we get lost, there's just a lot left to go. We haven't even gotten to the second half of the season yet, but there is the stuff with Republic City. So aside from Mako and the wild goose chase he was sent on, basically, Bolin becomes the first ever movie star, and Varric kind of invades the movies or the movers. And there's a whole like funny like World War II Nazi propaganda thing with Varric making anti-Unalaq propaganda films. What was the character that Bolin made?
Oh yeah,
Nuktuk.
I'm curious to see how you guys thought of that. That was an interesting storyline.
It was honestly a waste. I'm sorry. Like I like that they showed movies in this world, especially like the first time you see it like in the show. He's actually showing what was it called, ostrich horse running around, which is literally what happened in our world. Only it was a horse, and so that was kind of fun. But honestly, that storyline was kind of boring.
Yeah.
It's weird, okay, because a part of me, I think this is the point of the season where it started to wobble, and I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know, is this going anywhere? Is this a point?
Yeah,
and then by the midway, it's like it just completely falls apart. To me, when they leave the Water Tribe, is where it starts to go like, okay, where are you going with this? Because there was some interesting stuff. Like they were, speaking of Sokka, they were like marching peacefully, asking for the release of northern occupation of the Southern Water Tribe, and they're walking in the streets when they were attacked, and it's like, oh, like this is interesting. And then I think it's somewhat interesting where they're like making propaganda films to try and get politicians to, or just
support the war,
public sentiment to support the war. And it's like, okay, this stuff is kind of interesting. But then you got stuff with like Mako being a cop, and it's like, I don't care, Mako, you're just there to stand there and look pretty.
Asami, I guess, is there too.
Is kind of, well, her whole thing is trying to keep her father's business afloat, which is now her business.
Right.
Which again, it's like, I kind of don't care. It's just like, it feels like all the side characters don't interact at all with Korra for most of the season. And if they were all growing, but growing separately, it's like, okay. But the only one that was growing at this point was really Korra, and it feels like you're giving, again, Mako has the fucking Lois Lane plot because just gotta give them something to do. And then I thought, like,
Bolin's a movie star because they gotta give him something to do.
Yeah, it was somewhat interesting, but then it's like, until it wasn't. And then the same with Asami. It's kind of like, well, she's kind of having to keep her business afloat. But most of it just feels like busy work for this.
Yeah, it's really weird because like it doesn't really connect in the end. Like everything that they were going through, it doesn't connect.
That's a theme here. It seems
it makes sense. At least for me, it makes sense for the characters to do this. Bolin, like we always said, he's the comedic relief in the show, but he's also he's very fun to watch. So it makes sense, like when you introduce movers, that he kind of goes into the movies.
Yeah, all of these things make sense. I mean, I don't think anyone really questions that. I just feel like perhaps it wasn't a worthwhile storyline to see being explored. I mean, that's kind of the trade-offs that you have with the show, is that, look, and maybe one of the ways why people they want to compare both Avatar shows. They want to compare both team avatars. Unfortunately, though, because of the storyline that they were doing this season, they had to separate Team Avatar, which, we've seen stuff like Star Wars where they separate their main core cast and they each grow in their own ways apart. But a lot of the stuff that was given to Team Avatar, Asami and Bolin and Mako, felt that was actual filler because it didn't go anywhere. It was like, okay, we need a couple of minutes in this episode with Mako to push the story along, but it really isn't going to grow his character, which is the most important thing where we're going to be using him. And ultimately, not only do their individual characters suffer because there's no development, but the group component is just lost entirely because it's just non-existent. It kept annoying me though. Like, I mean, we're in Republic City, and I felt like we barely saw Lin Beifong this season.
Yeah, she's kind of not. And again, the best seasons are when Lin Beifong's around. And in a big way. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And she's kind of not in this season, which really surprised me. Like,
at all. There is one joke that I thought was funny. When again their back and forth bullshit just gets. It's at a point where it's like they don't even care, so I no longer care. I think Mako like breaks up with Korra at the like police station, and she like trashes it, and then Lin's just like leaning on the side of the like the door, like, you should have seen Airbender Island when Tenzin broke up with me.
No,
you got off easy.
No, I like the whole thing though, because she comes out going, "What the flameo is happening out here?" And first of all, I love the idea that Aang actually got Flameo to be a thing again.
And not only that, he got Lin to say it.
Well, that's the thing. They were probably really close when she was little, and he's like, say it. It's cool. You know?
And I saw like a theory on the internet. Someone was like, I am convinced that Aang's friend Kuzan like made up the slang Flameo for him, something like that. It's just always kind of funny. And they even mentioned it in the first season, Flameo. It was like Flameo cereal or something like that. It was funny.
Oh my god.
No, yeah, but yeah, she got like the best joke in that season.
One funny interaction, even though it may have come out of personal frustration in terms of Mako's character, but one was when Korra comes back. I don't want to get to that point, but she comes back and she forgets that they broke up, and she kisses him, and he's all like, okay. And then he looks at everyone and they're all like, I don't know. They're all like, I don't know what to tell you, man. You figure it out. Because everybody knows they broke up.
Yeah.
And then she just comes up and kisses him, and it's like, and Asami is again pissed.
Dude,
like,
she always gets the shit end of the stick.
I know.
It's
Dude,
okay.
that's why he's
She
such
wins
a
in the end.
dick.
I don't blame him on that part, but afterwards though.
No, I mean, I know, but like, jeez, I'm sorry. He's cool and all, but like, I don't know, man.
It's not very
Their faces
Flameo
were
of him.
funny. Also, just before we move on, because I mean this is the last small thing, and then we get to the big stuff with the middle of the season.
Yes.
Did anyone find the Varric wanting to kidnap the president thing a little weird?
On the this is the thing. On the surface, I get it, right? Because the idea that this hyper-capitalist wants to create a civil war in order to profit off of it, I mean, come on, obvious, right? So to a certain extent, I get it. But this show, this is like a broader issue with the show. I feel like they do point out real issues like that you can find in the real world, but they kind of all shucks it away. Because while he ends up locked up at the end of the season, he redeems himself in later seasons, and it's like this kind of character would not in real life does not get redeemed. And like looking forward, there's two other villains, and the fascist one gets somewhat redeemed at the end, and the anarchist one doesn't. And it is this thing where it's like, you are critiquing it, but then I don't know. It's a bit iffy. if you catch my drift, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a filthy radical, so what do I know?
Is there anything else concerning the first half of season 2 that we want to address before we inevitably literally go down a rabbit hole?
There was something that I wanted to address, but I guess it's more prevalent in the second half, so it'd be.
I want to be clear though, because I think overall, all of us have. I feel like we're on the same page almost, because I think overall we have things that we enjoy about the first half of the season, and then there are stuff that we enjoy far less so. And there is stuff that is working really well on a creative aspect level.
I think on a story level.
Right, on the story level. But there are other things that are glaring in terms of how stagnant they are.
Yeah, I would agree.
Are we on the same page on that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. This is not going to be a smooth transition because that's just not how it is in the season, is it? Peter, you want to try and... All right, so in the middle of the season, Korra attempts, I guess, to go see the Fire
I feel
Lord.
like we didn't really explain. Basically, what's the uncle's name?
Unilock.
Oh, that guy. He's trying to get Korra to
Open.
master.
He wants her to open the spirit portal.
Well, yeah, he wants her to open the portal into the spirit world, but he also wants her to
Master spirits, I guess.
Spirit bending? I don't know. Is that a
the
thing?
Avatar state?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that it? I forgot.
Because that's if she does that, then she opens the spirit world. So that's kind of his whole thing. Besides the whole water tribe revolution thing, that's also a main thing, but he's doing it for something bad, which this is where we find out.
At first, yeah, you're right about that. At first it felt, and it came off as a very nuanced approach in the sense that he felt very personal about the Civil War as the one that was kind of leading it. Not only that, but him and his journey of getting the Avatar to get more on a spiritual balance, because she hasn't had that at all before, and that's been established. Clearly, I mean, at least it was obvious that there was something else going on there, but that, on the surface anyway, was nuanced.
Well,
however,
what was real quick, what was nuanced about it was, in the beginning, he was semi-right. The issues they'd been was because the spirits were sort of angry at them sort of leaving that sort of way. And I think you can also view it in sort of an environmental way. You know, not respecting
and that's
nature.
The thing with all the villains. That's the thing with all the villains on the show. They do have the right ideas. It's their intentions that are bad, and they go to the extreme.
I think it's the different. I think their intentions are probably good, but their ideas are too extreme.
Okay, the best way of saying is, I think they have a legitimate and very accurate criticism of what's wrong. How and they offer solutions, but more often than not, the solutions they offer are very much entwined with a very self-centered desire. And the approach is entirely wrong.
I would say that's first half of season 1 Unilac. Second half is completely different.
That's why I was saying it's at first you have that.
Yeah.
And there's that has that nuanced variety that we're looking for in a show like this. But by the time we get to the end, it became very black and white, good and evil. But that kind of happens when you introduce the literal, I think, a manifestation of what? God and the devil?
Right.
Or literally?
Real quick. Well, I can't remember what it was. I think she wanted to go back to the Law Tribe. something whatever. Her cousins come.
No, the Fire Nation. The Fire Nation.
Was she trying to go to the Fire Nation?
She was going to go to the Fire Nation.
Oh, yeah, well, she was going to get help, I think, for the Civil War. Okay, yeah.
That would not have gone well, but I mean, sure.
She was trying to get their help, but on the way, her cousins, under the guys, the leadership of their father, it's like, go get Korra. And, you know, they chase her across the water, the ocean.
Across the fucking ocean? I was like, damn, you can bend that long? You could basically just...
Yeah, I feel like you'd get tired and drown. I don't know.
It's a whole fucking ocean. I don't know.
Well, at that point, Bolin had broken up with one of them, no?
Yeah. I thought that shit was funny.
They were angry.
I thought that shit was real funny, all that. But I forgot to mention that. Oh, well, whatever. What was her name? Fuck. I can't remember.
Someone will Google it.
But as they were chasing her, a big ol' spirit comes out and, like, nom-nom-noms on Korra. And they're like, fuck, I guess she's dead, and leave. She ends up washed up on the Fire Nation shores, where these random people are like, she's in a coma. It's like, okay. And they put her in, I guess, some spirit waters to try and reconnect with her past lives to find herself. And then what proceeds is most people's two favorite episodes of the whole season, maybe the whole series.
Real quick, Peter.
Yeah.
Desna and Eska.
Desna and Eska. Yeah. I think her name was Eska. The girl was Eska, I think. But yeah. To me, though, it just like, it's a complete 180. Like, the entire first half of the season is dropped once you hit this point. Like, completely. Everything that happened before kind of doesn't matter, like, at all. But yeah, you guys want to talk about what happens at this point?
Well, I feel like, so there's the first half of the season and there's the second half of the season, but there's two giant episodes that are kind of the transition from one to the other that in and of themselves I think are worth talking about on a more, I think...
Well, okay. Well, it's gonna sound like Peter's gonna shit on it, so I want to say some good things about those two
Just kind of getting quick. Too late. This is why it sucks. And no.
Okay. No, well, here's the thing though. Like, I did love the idea of seeing the origin story, I guess, of the Avatar, and just kind of seeing how the world looked 10,000 years ago.
The animation
and the animation is honestly,
the animation's cool,
incredible. Like, just the idea of making it of a Chinese art style, make the world look like a Chinese art style painting. It was a great idea and all that. And Avatar 1, who is the first Avatar, also apparently won.
Voiced by Glenn by The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
From The Walking Dead.
Oh, yeah. Also,
really?
Yeah, that was...
Yeah. Also, apparently, like, Wan, the name means one. So, like, I just...
One. Oh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He was number one.
He was a great character, honestly. Like, you really saw a bit of both Korra and Aang in him. Like, he's very headstrong, kind of, like, really does fight for the little people, kind of like Korra does. I mean, Aang does that too, but mostly with what I saw in Aang was him caring about the spirits, caring about every living thing in the world. And then Rava's cool, I guess.
I don't know. At least for me, like,
that.
I kind of see those episodes that's separate from the rest of the season, because it's like, okay, here you go, bloop, and everything else is like not that.
Before you go, Peter, I want to go first, but finish, Alexis.
But I do really like those episodes. I mean, I feel, at least like me and David, like, we've been invested in these two shows for such a long time. To see something like that I think is pretty great.
Actually, like I remember when they announced that they were gonna show the origin of the Avatar cycle, and like they showed like a picture of the character, and then we saw who's gonna be the voice actor, and we were like,
I think they showed the tree.
I don't remember, but like I remember they announced the voice actor for one, and we were pretty invested in Walking Dead in that time, so we were like, oh my god, that's so cool, like that's so great. And I can't remember if we saw the episode like on television or anything they came out.
I don't remember,
but we were just like mind blown at like what they did with the animation and the story.
So I do enjoy that.
Yeah,
but I see it as something completely separate from this season, at least. But I think they're pretty great.
In fact, it would have been better if it were separate, and I think that's kind of the transition that we're going to get into here. Before Peter talks, I did enjoy those episodes. I was riveted, because okay, I didn't necessarily expect this to happen, but from a presentation standpoint, they got you with it. I mean, the animation was like, whoa. And then you're talking about like the equivalent of the biblical times for this world in the beginning of this Avatar. And that stuff was interesting. And Juan is likable. And overall, you know what, I enjoyed it. And I think perhaps I look back on it better as its own piece. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it would have been better served as like a Avatar story offshoot, short film or something. Because for the stuff that's kind of being revealed in these episodes have consequences for the characters and the storylines in season 2 that I think mark a turn for the worse. I was highly entertained watching them from not just that standpoint, but because I was just laughing like, man, there's so many things here that Peter hates, and I love it. I'm here for it. This is amazing. There's some stuff they're pulling here that is right out of like the Peter Bible of don't do's in any kind of a genre fantasy show. And it was like, all right. I think ultimately it was a mistake. And I think it did disrupt not only the flow of the season, but ultimately where this thing went. Because, and even if like we're going to talk about like what this introduces, I have mixed feelings going forward about, you know, oh, now we have to name drop Rava as a character now that gives the Avatar their power. There are a lot of things I feel that are established here that make it part of me is interested in, oh, so this is where it came from. But the other part of me, and I feel this is where Peter will kind of rail into it, is, well, I didn't really need to know any of this, and I feel like it kind of lost a little bit of the magic. And now I'm like, it's interesting, but what did we gain, and did we lose something out of this as far as the mythos of this character? Those are my questions of it. Mm-hmm. Peter? Or unless David, if you wanted to answer first.
I agree with what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. I would say I don't think we gained anything from it, but I don't think for sure we lost anything from learning that. For me, at least. Like, again, when I say that we don't gain anything from it, is because it really just doesn't seem that it came out of the blue. Yeah. It doesn't feel that important for the story. Like, we could have learned about Rava and Vatu without knowing the origin of the Avatar, you know? But I also don't think we lost anything, because it is really interesting seeing the origin of the Avatar and how we got the lion turtles in those episodes too, and how like they brought up the energy drinking thing.
Hold it, Peter. Hold it. Hold it just a little bit more. Look, you see, the stuff you're saying, I hear you. I understand. I think that's nice, especially if you're a fan of this mythos and this world. Personally, I just feel like all that stuff is very superficial. There really doesn't add much, I think, to the substance of it. I mean, that's just a personal disagreement there. But, and before we get to Peter's amazing rant, we need to...
Let's just skip...
We need to put an asterisk here that, and David did mention, there is a behind the scenes production issue that very much played into why this particular origin story was slam dunk in the middle of this season. For where the producers and their original intentions, what David told me where they wanted to put this in. All that being said, Peter, good God, hold on to your butts, people. Here you go.
Okay. I'm Joker now. Okay. I'll start at this because it's like, well, what do we lose? I liked the way you put that. What do we lose?
And what do we gain? To be fair, but yeah.
What do we lose? Okay. I think for me, the biggest thing and the most obvious thing is what is the whole season called? Book 2, Spirits. You're going to deal with spirituality. You're going to deal with that the spiritual world and all that shit. When you think of spirituality back in The Last Airbender, what do you think about? Mm-hmm. Like, I remember those episodes where it's like these deep sort of Eastern philosophies where for a kid's show, they would get into it and talk about it. And, removing the chakras, removing oneself from the earth.
Right.
These wonderful ideas about what spirituality was. And I'm gonna do it. They fucking J.J. Abrams did. You took the Force and turned it into a superpower. And I feel like they did the same thing here, where they took all these interesting discussions on spirituality and what it is and what it means, and it's more of this sort of ethereal, emotional thing, and they turned it into a superpower. Spirituality is literally a superpower in the second half of this season. And it's so fucking lame. It's so lame. And one of the clearest ways you can see that is in the spirits themselves. The spirits in The Last Airbender, they represented things. They were these elusive, mysterious beings that it really is like looking at something only a quarter of the way. They're these weird, elusive things that you will never fully grasp. And that's what made them so interesting. And again, they often represented, like the panda represented the devastation to the forest. What's her name? The red lady who represented
the water.
What's her name?
The pale lady?
Yeah, the pale lady. Yeah, protection of the village and those people. The spirits in this season and really this entire series, they're Pokemon. That's what they are.
By the way, you don't even know what Pokemon is, but that's a pretty accurate description.
Like, that's literally all they are. They're stripped of any mystique or anything interesting to them, and they're just sort of these crosses between animals.
Can we be clear? How you just said that, and this isn't something that I was thinking of, at least on top of mine, because I think it was primarily more concerned with Rava and Vatu, and that's a whole center thing going on. But when you say that, there is a very different approach to what spirits are from show to show. That is clear. Maybe more clear now than when you say that. Well, yeah, because now spirits kind of seem like, I don't even know how to top what you said, but
like a being, like
a nuisance almost. Well,
okay, like the way that I kind of see it, well, at least like from show to show, is like the ones from The Last Airbender, they're ones that kind of chose to stay, and like you said, they do represent something and they're powerful enough to do that. Whereas, like, the ones that show up in Korra are ones that decided to stay in the spirit world, but, like, are obviously angry about, like, stuff
Decided or made to? Didn't they?
Well,
No, they decided.
Yeah, they decided.
What was it? Those fish ones from the first seasons. Like, I think they actually said that they decided to stay with the humans because of, like, their love for them or something. And Wang Xingtong, he decided to stay with the humans because he wanted knowledge, and he stayed there. But he got so annoyed of them that he left completely.
So
like,
that's how I kind of see it. Like, like they're able to transcend both worlds if they want to, and if they're powerful enough.
And the thing though, Peter, you said that these spirits are like Pokemon now. I agree with that. But the thing with Pokemon is you have some that are like just very common. They're all birds. They're all little rats walking around. It's like they're all very common ones, but there's still those legendary ones. And that's how I see the ones in The Last Airbender. Yeah. The panda is a legendary Pokemon. There's still a mystery with all of them, because like how do you affect this world? Unlike, you know, those bunnies that you see Boomy make friends, that follow Genora, Boomy makes friends with, and all that. Because again, you have the fish in the first season where they literally affect the way the water moves, the way they waterbenders can actually use their power and all that. So I mean, to me, again, there's still some mystery to them. It's just that we're now getting a bigger, wider world.
Okay, yeah. So this is why you're wrong.
Happy birthday, David, by the way.
David. Happy birthday from all of us to you.
Oh my god.
In the first series, The Last Airbender, they go into the spirit world. You see the spirit world and the way it's represented, and the spirits you see in the spirit world are very much still these interesting, just mythical beings. They go into there, and the area itself is viewed mysteriously as well. Whereas within Korra, when they go into the spirit world, especially later on in the season, it's basically Wonderland.
Yeah,
and there is a difference, at least from a.
It's fucking Wonderland. They literally have a scene exactly like Wonderland where they're sitting around and goofy characters are drinking tea.
Yeah. No, I agree. They definitely made a change in the spirit world for sure. Even some of how they transform. So like the panda in The Last Airbender, it goes into this giant looking.
Every time they're mad, they're just purple now.
Yeah, now they just glow and just kind of get like Super
and not only that,
that
it's like
just be production issues.
Instead
true,
of
but
each of the issues with the spirits being instead of the issues with the spirits actually meaning something and finding out what those issues are actually fixes it, they just sort of do a spell. They do their one spell where they wrap around gold light around them, and then the spirits are magically happy again. Might as well just throw a Pokeball at them. Like, it's fucking lame. I'm sorry, it sucks. Like, it genuinely.
I gotta tell you, I didn't expect we'd be starting at that level, because I think there are much more in-your-face versions of stripping things.
Oh no, yeah,
down,
this was just my beginning. Yeah. This was the beginning of the rant. Then you guys jumped in.
Well, I mean, because it is interesting, because this wasn't top of mind, but then when you said it, it was like, well, that's true, and that is in fact indicative of the larger point here. That's why when you do these, I don't know, when I was looking at that whole episode that introduced the origin of Avatar 1, it felt very much like one of those things that genre shows, a la The Rise of Skywalker or The Timeless Child in Doctor Who, where they kind of introduce these big retcons, and you either go with them or you're not. But whatever, I don't want to classify this as a retcon. Let me be clear. But I feel like it almost has the same effect. And that's why I put the questions. What did we gain and what did we lose?
Sure.
And so far, that's, I think, where we have to approach this from.
And I guess that's my thing as well. Viewing the spirit world and all of that was really lame. I think they handled it horribly. They handled the spirits horribly in Korra. Because again, the season is called Spirits. You would think that the whole season would be this sort of deeper understanding journey that Korra has to go through, and ultimately it's just good versus evil, punchy harder than other punch. Let's shoot lasers at each other until the bigger laser wins. Very spiritual. So bad. But
I don't want to. I keep cutting you off here, but I mean, just to point it out. I mean, to improve more of your points here. When you say that it turned it into a superpower, I mean, that's kind of what everything kind of is dialed back down to by the time the finale happens. Because there's a whole bunch of, it's a light show, literally. And I feel like, and we'll get to the finale, but I feel like it affects just about every aspect of the show, not just from a philosophical point of view, but also I feel from the choreography itself, I feel is also kind of a little bit diminished because everything is so big. And I mean, because one last thing, I know I'm just giving a couple of things here, but and then I'll go back to Peter. But you know, we talked about, at least the beginning of this episode, talking about the inner complexities and the nuanced civil war of, you know, the water tribe and all that stuff. That's where we start, and then we end it with a battle of good versus evil of all time, which arguably is
the biggest
what
battle ever.
Airbender did, right?
In the history
Airbender did
of...
that already, and we're doing it here, but I think to a much less effective point.
Well, let me continue. So, like, the whole thing with, like, showing them living on the lion turtles and showing how they got the gifts of fire and water and how he, you know, journeyed to learn these things and all this.
Again, I forgot that. You just reminded me of that. Oh, my God.
I'll be honest. I don't hate it.
I don't love it.
But I don't love it either. It's one of those things.
Because I prefer the idea of like, well, okay, people naturally, if they're born to it, have the ability to bend the elements.
I like the idea of, because in the last Airbender, they talk about how the first waterbenders learned from the moon and watched as the tides, you know, moved in and out, and slowly over generations, they sort of mastered the ability of waterbending, you know, and to me that just fits so much better, especially when you look at like a lot of the Asian myths and stories that they take from, you know, that to me fits so much better than like specifically the lion turtle gives them the superpower. And then, you know, they have to learn it or whatever. I don't hate it, but it's not a positive for me either.
It doesn't also fit, because those are very two different explanations for how bending originated.
You can Dave Filoni technically it. But again, I'd rather just not do that. Instead of going, well, technically, we never said... Because they have that here. It's like, well, they technically, he learned to firebend from the dragons. But it's like, to me, it makes, myth, like, just talking about the myth within this world, I like it so much better that just a race of people, you know, learn to live as one with the dragons, and the dragons, they learn from the dragons how to firebend. And because I can't remember, but did they ever have a point where the moon showed them how to waterbend? Like,
The moon technically is a spirit, but they don't really,
because they show him train with the fire, the dragons.
Right,
but
right.
but also like the bison were the original airbenders, and yeah, I don't know, I don't love it. It's not like the worst thing in the world to me, but
that one's more of a personal preference.
Yeah, I still think you lose something by explaining
this stuff.
Well, I mean, it's just that it's still, they still keep it open. That's the thing. So, like, yeah, like you said, he does learn from the dragon, which is what they said, and I understand again that it does suck that in your mind you're probably thinking that a whole group of people just somehow befriended a bunch of dragons and everything. But I think they still kept that bit of a mystery there, because he learned earthbending, but there was no badger moles around.
Also, it's just him. It's not like they say people. They don't say the avatar.
Technically.
Can we get to the big thing here?
I want to talk about Vaatu.
That's.
Oh, is that the big thing?
What I was saying?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Vaatu or Rava or both?
Yeah, Rava and Vaatu. Okay. A part of me kind of thought, like, because was kind of been like, okay, kind of into this at the beginning, because it's this idea of, like, you know, good yin and yang, sort of this eternal fight, this eternal struggle. I can definitely see this as sort of a what do you call it, sort of a myth that one would speak, you know, passed down through the years.
It felt like biblical stuff.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. I guess my issue is more of how it wrapped up. And
can we? Okay,
yeah.
I don't want to cut you off again, but
you don't want to, but you will.
We're getting into the big issues with the second half of the season.
Yes.
I really am curious at this moment, though. Your very initial reaction, before we even see how it played out, of these two episodes that introduced all this stuff as their own isolated
thing. I agree. I liked the art style. I thought that was pretty cool, and I think inspired. I liked the idea of Juan, and the voice acting was really good. Overall, it really is that thing where it just feels like every single sort of stories like this, like from Harry Potter to Star Wars, they just reach a point where they have to lift the curtain and show you specifics. And to me, like, mystery is so important to storytelling. As you know, what one of my favorite books were as a kid, A Series of Unfortunate Events. And what I love so much about those books is they never explain shit. It's mysterious and dour to the very end. But that mystery is so interesting, and I know if I ever got definitive answers for so many of those issues of the story would be less interesting to me. A lot of times, like, I know you guys don't like Lord of the Rings, but one of the things with Lord of the Rings is the wizards, right? There's Gandalf the Grey, there's Saruman, there's Radagast, but in the beginning there was 5 wizards. There were? Yes. There was 5 wizards. And I think there was like twin wizards that were both blue or whatever. But when they tell the story about the wizards, it's literally like these 2 wizards journeyed westward and were never heard of from again. And I think they even asked J.R.R. Tolkien, like, what happened to those wizards? He's like, I don't know. You know, I can give you ideas of what I think happened to them, but it's a mystery.
I don't know what the fuck happened with Lord of the Rings. I remember really liking those films when I watched them years and years ago. but for the life of me, I can't remember a damn thing that happened.
Oh no, they don't talk about it in the movie. This is more.
I know, but I mean, in general, like just to to say, because you mentioned that we didn't like it. I liked those movies.
Yeah,
I just forgot all of them. And I mean, Alexis didn't like it at all, but I mean, like, I can't remember anything that happened besides eagles at the end, I feel. The big floating eye in the sky.
Yeah. But I just think mystery is just so important to storytelling, and especially in fantastical worlds like this.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people forget that and just feel the need to explain everything. And it's not that explaining it will necessarily ruin it. It just takes away that level of wonder through which you once saw things, and like a little less wonder.
Well, my big thing that left me a little bit with, I think, to me, what I'm most conflicted on with what was introduced in this episode was the origin of the Avatar itself. Yeah. Okay, so the Avatar only exists because this person named Juan fused with Rava.
That's where my issues really just came full circle.
I didn't need that. And not to ruin Doctor Who for Dave, I don't know if you saw it, but they kind of do something like that with the Doctor in this last season. And I'm like, why did we need to do that? You really just like, I don't know. I feel like I can't articulate.
These stories get ruined the second that a female plays the lead.
Fuck off. Fuck off with that. I have been on the record numerous times refuting that point. So has David. So has Kyle. You have no evidence in your favor of that. You've already lost when you look back at the tapes. The point is, I can't really articulate in words at this moment why it is that doesn't work for me. Maybe Peter can help with that. But before we should point out what David said, because this is important. The production of this, because David, you want to tell me the story you said about the fact that they had planned this for a different event?
Yeah, I mean, they planned on showing the origin in The Last Airbender. I mean, I'm not exactly sure what season they wanted to, but they just never really found a perfect place for it to show it, So
see that
they just threw it on there.
Yeah.
Well, no shit. No wonder why it felt so thrown on, because part of the viewing experience of watching these two episodes, it's like, what the fuck? What am I watching? Where did this come from? What happened to Korra? Like, we literally just like pause the whole show, and then you're left wondering, where the hell did this shit come from? And then on top of that, okay, I get that. For a time, it seemed as if season 2 was the last season, and then there was this instance of like, well, this is our last chance to like tell the story of how this all started. But then when you say that they had planned to do this with The Last Airbender, and I'm thinking, where would they have introduced this big thing? It might have worked better in Airbender.
Well, that's why they didn't do it, because they couldn't find the right place.
I mean, it could have worked in the 3rd season, because again, some of the complaints people had is that
4 seasons. They had planned a 4th season, right, at some point.
Yeah, that's true too. But I mean, I think it would have been better in 3rd, because some people's complaints about the finale is that the lion turtle just kind of shows up out of nowhere, and like the only like.
I guess you could have replaced the lion turtle with him talking to Juan, and then Juan relating his journey, and his ability to, I don't know. You retool the story.
Like in that I mean, maybe not replace. You could have still put him on the lion turtle when he's.
You just want the lion turtle.
The past. No, I'm saying, oh my god, when he's talking to all the past avatars.
Yeah.
But that would still beg the question: where the fuck did this lion turtle come from?
Also, I want to go on record. I never had a problem with the lion turtle. I don't know why people ask so many questions about the lion turtle in the finale of the Airbender.
Yeah, it's one of these things where it's like, it's here. Just shut up.
It's thank you. So I just wanted to point out, like, from a production standpoint, that did influence the creative decision of this season. And if it felt thrown on, it was. So there's your answer.
Also, actually, the lion turtle that you see in The Last Airbender, it's the one that gave Avatar 1 fire.
It's the one? When we saw
Yeah.
various ones in this one? We saw various.
It's the one because if you
It's
see their
that one.
foreheads, they all have the symbols of the
Uh-huh.
element that
They
they
all
did.
look different.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, the foreheads have the symbols of the elements. So in the one that we see in The Last Airbender has the fire symbol. That's the one in the...
So they
Korra.
probably already had the story in their mind.
Oh, they
No,
did,
yeah,
for sure, yeah.
definitely. That's why I'm saying, like, it could have... I feel like it could have easily gone on there. Maybe not the way that they did it on
Yeah,
here.
it probably would have been different.
To, like, fully show you everything. But, like, I feel like when he's asking past avatars for advice, I feel like he totally would have... That's something he would have done. Like, maybe I should ask the first avatar.
like
you
what
know
did
what I
you
mean? Yeah.
do? Yeah. Well, okay, so the thing where I just finally give up on this shit is the final him eating Rava. And my issue with that is
Wait, who's him? Juan or Vatu?
Juan.
Okay,
Juan.
right. Those two
Yeah.
becoming one, basically.
Because early in the story, you hear her say, like, there's literally no way to defeat him. You know, we can't kill each other because as long as one of us lives, the other one lives. Like,
Yin and yang,
yeah,
basically.
yin and yang. So it's like, it's almost, it feels like the point is that there's balance, right? And what I thought the way that it would be resolved is that he would absorb both of them.
Ah.
Eh.
Both Vatu and Rava would be infused in the avatar.
Yes.
Okay.
And he would be balanced, you know, because that's the whole point of the avatar.
Of the avatar, right? Yeah.
To
yeah.
bring balance and stuff. But it would also give you reasons for why avatars are so flawed, because they have you know, good and bad within them, and they're humans basically. So the idea
They are humans.
that the avatar is infused just with all-knowing
Good.
perfect goodness kind of takes away the human aspect of what the avatar has always been and what has made the avatar so interesting. And again, I think it's so easily fixed if you use both, right? If one had infused himself with both, and that's what became the avatar, you know, this one being through yin and yang trying to maintain balance within the world. But instead it's you lock away evil and you are this all-knowing being of goodness, but evil still exists. Like, I don't know if locking it up really does anything. As we see, he even admits, like, yeah, I've locked up Vatu, but, like, that's literally changed nothing. Just from a story perspective, it just makes so little sense. Because also, there's, like, no drama, no conflict. Because at the end of the day, I'm like, okay,
But
yeah.
then if he eats him, how
what?
is, like, they're gonna be bad in the world? Because
There's going to be both
would
good
lead
and
to-
bad, because the avatar is within the world.
Well, I mean, okay, so they say that Vatu is the source of all evil, and he's locked up. Correct me if I'm wrong here. I may have missed it in that really confusing light show at the end of the season. I was under the impression Vatu was vanquished,
Yeah,
but there's still evil after him.
but not only that, the whole point was that you can't destroy one
Or the
or
other.
the other.
Yeah.
So why is the
Well,
big
they also
ending we destroy all evil for all
Well,
time? Well,
Not
for 10,000
really,
years,
though.
but still,
Well, not really, though, because Rava says, like, even if I destroy Vatu, a little piece of him will always live inside me.
yeah.
So technically,
They did.
Rava, they did what you just said. Like, Vatu is in Korra now, basically. At least a little piece of it.
Maybe they
See, but
never
that also
make that
feels muddled.
clear.
Well, it is a little muddled because I think they say that toward the end. But if that was the case, why bother locking Vatu up anyway? Just kill him, and then a little bit of him will always be in you.
Yeah.
All right, then things will be fine.
What was the point of locking him up? Just kill it. I thought
If
the
it
whole
was
point was that
fine
you
yeah.
couldn't. Killing was not an option. That's not how you win the fight.
I feel like at one point it's presented that way, but then it's dropped by the end.
Yeah.
When she says, well, oh yeah, well, I mean, part of Vatu will always be in me, so we have no other option now but to kill him. But if you say that, and if you think about that, well, then you had the option all along, you just chose not to. It's muddled.
Yeah. No, it is.
But I just think it takes interesting concepts that aren't black and white and just makes them less interesting and unbelievably black and white.
Well, actually, did she actually destroy him? Because the thing though is that, Vatu, like, he beat the shit out of Rava and she disintegrated.
Yes.
But Korra,
she
did the whole spinning. No, but Korra, though, she did that spinning water thingy on Vatu.
She threw the Pokeball.
She threw the good light Pokeball.
Yeah, and so we don't really know what exactly that does. It doesn't kill a spirit. We know that for sure.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't want to get to the finale yet because that finale is fucking crazy. Because I'm still confused. I still have questions. Like I know you have questions. I got questions too because I'm not entirely.
I am
sure
actually at this moment looking
exactly
up a review that I read. That way, I have these questions on hand because I have questions too about what happened. It wasn't entirely clear.
But just talking about these two episodes, I mean, like that's where my issue sort of derives from.
So where do we go from here?
But like literally after these two episodes, the Civil War doesn't matter. After these two episodes, it just becomes about having to stop Vatu and his 10,000 and Unalaq from the 10,000 years reign of darkness. And it's like Civil War, what? Nuance, huh? No, it's the ultimate battle between good versus evil. And then Unalaq just becomes bad guy. Like the most stale, boring bad guy. Like it felt like he was auditioning for his Marvel movie debut. Like so fucking lame. So lame. And again, it makes sense because he's the dark version of the hero. He's the dark avatar. Like it became a fucking Marvel movie. Like, oh, it's so lame. But like, I'll be honest, I don't entirely remember what happened in between these two episodes and then the finale.
We see Iroh.
Oh yeah, Iroh comes. He goes to fucking Wonderland, and we see Iroh again.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. This part I did like was Tenzin just having to reconcile with the fact that he's not spiritually connected.
Yeah,
but Jinara is.
Was... Yes.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Jinara.
That was good.
Yeah. No, actually, Tenzin's story after those two episodes, it's really, really great because, like you just said, he has to reconcile that he's not spiritually connected to the spirits. But also when Jinora goes to the spirit world and gets lost
and that, sorry, I'm like totally cutting you off. That's what I mean by like the difference in the spirit worlds between the last Airbender and this one, where like maybe Aang, I mean, yeah, he's the avatar, but that doesn't fully mean that he's gonna be totally connected the way Korra is connected. Like, she wasn't even fully connected. It was only until she crossed the portal that she was like fully in that spirit world, you know? So that's what I mean by like the difference in both, which like at least to me, I feel like it does kind of play, like it does make sense.
But more to the point, I think what we've just unearthed here is that the best character, Tenzin, got out of season 2 really unscathed. He may have gotten the best material because there was good,
No, he did.
great character stuff with him. Him and his family, yeah. Well, not entirely. Janara is involved in something else that is still a mystery.
Yeah.
But as far as like when it comes to growing Tenzin is concerned, and it all climaxed or it peaked anyway with them being in that lost soul.
That's the only
area.
good spirit shit too. It has the funniest scene in the whole season.
Which one?
When they're lost, and they're like,
and then we Commander Zhao.
No, when they're lost, and they're like, we've passed that spirit mushroom 3 times already. And they're like, no, we haven't. and the mushroom's like, yeah, you have. And then there's like a noise,
you see,
and they're like, was that you, spirit mushroom? Was it me? He's so, but it's like they're all so in character, and then it's just like this silly spirit. I don't know. It works there.
And I was gonna say, Tenzin. It's not just that Tenzin needs to reconcile that he's not spiritual like his dad. It's that he's not his dad at all.
Yeah,
like that's his whole story arc basically. And I love that scene when they go into the fog, and again, you meet General Zhao again, and he's just like, I must capture the Avatar. I must capture the Avatar.
Oh, and he thinks that he's him.
And he looks at Tenzin, and it's just like, it's you.
I mean,
capture the Avatar.
That may have been one of the more, I think, from this season anyway, one of the more darker elements. I mean, that was pretty much eternal damnation. At its most biblical. I mean, there weren't any like fiery lakes, but I mean, he was fucking in anguish and in such. Wow, that was.
We probably went crazy.
He wasn't the only one in there.
Years just wandering the fog.
A whole eternity.
Yeah, and I like. I'm kind of wondering like what happened exactly, because like he sees Aang, he sees his dad, and like, was it Aang or like what exactly was he looking at? You know,
was it the fog or was it Aang?
Yeah, and like, was it trying to corrupt him or something? But he kind of like broke through it, and I love that scene where he sees himself. Like his dad disappears, he sees himself, and he goes, I am Tenzin. It's like, it's all simultaneous. And then the fog disappears.
You know, that brings up a different side question I've had. And we brought this up, I feel, in Airbender, where there really isn't, well, there really isn't organized religion. And there is the spirit world, and everyone knows it's real. But it gets a little... I guess maybe muddles a bit too negative. I guess I'm very much curious to see what the rules are, because, all right, people die, and I guess they don't go anywhere, but we have people like Iroh who are in... Well, I mean, he says he leaves his body, but, I mean, I think he just died, and he's in the spirit world, and we see those lost souls that are there in the spirit world. So, like, when people die, do they automatically just become a spirit here? What happens? Because some of them do end up here, but like, where are the former avatars? Are they always just going to be connected in the spiritual link with the new avatar? And then there's a bigger question is, when that link is broken, where did they go? Did no one else have these questions, or am I just...
I just kind of thought that they're gone.
Yeah, but then why is Iroh not... I mean, I
assume Iroh physically crossed over.
Yeah.
He said that he left his body. Not in this season, but in season, I think, 4, when she's talking with
from a certain
Iroh.
point of view.
Oh, yeah. You right. No, you right.
He left his physical body behind and then crossed... I mean, this is completely irrelevant to the whole point of the season, but these are just questions that I have about this world in general that I'm not sure if anybody else...
Well, what I think is, like, the past avatars are already in the spirit world, like, as, like, spirits.
Right.
So once that link is broken, they're completely gone from both worlds. Whereas Iroh still has that connection into the spirit world, so he's still there.
Yeah.
It's like, they're non-existent anymore. It's kind of like in Coco, when they forget, or like they don't know anybody in like the living world, and so they just kind of vanish.
They turn into Pokemon.
All right. Is there anywhere else to go before we head to the finale?
What was the thing with Janora?
Oh, she's a big part of the finale.
That's the finale shit
Yeah.
that just...
I kind of like what they do with her. I don't remember, or I don't know what specific part.
Did it make sense exactly what they did with her? Because that's where
Okay.
we're a little confused.
Hold on. Let's just do it. I'm gonna break down the finale. Okay.
Do you need a chalkboard or something?
I might. Okay. So Korra goes to confront what's his name? Unilock. Because he wants to combine with Vatu, merge with Vatu and become a dark avatar. Pretty fucking lame, but okay. So Korra goes to do what she did 10,000 years ago and lock away Vatu. She fails, they merge, and they start avatar fighting. At one point, Unilock is able to pull out the spirit of I forgot the spirit's name. Rava. Pull out Rava and kill Rava to the point where she loses connection to all her past lives, and she's like technically no longer the avatar. Okay. So what Unilock does, he turns into a big purple monster and using the spirit portal, I guess?
Using the
spirit arch?
Northern
Lights. Okay, yes, Northern Lights. Yeah, because the Northern Lights were spirits or something like that. He goes to Republic City and just starts smashing shit like Godzilla style.
It becomes Godzilla.
Yeah, he becomes purple laser Godzilla. On a visceral level, it somewhat speaks to me, but okay.
The kaiju element, anyway.
At this point, she's not the avatar anymore. Technically, I guess.
She's the last avatar.
Da 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 da. So all of a sudden Tenzin's like, whoa, all is not lost. You see this tree? It's a fucking magic tree. Okay? Go sit under it and think about your life. And she does that. And she magically turns into a giant laser person. At which she goes to fight the other laser bad guy, kaiju style. They're both these giant colorful laser people. And it gets to the point where she starts losing because her laser isn't badass enough as the other one.
Well, her spirit
powers aren't level 84 yet. She didn't grind enough. And then Janora out of nowhere just sort of floats down as a ball of light. And does she do anything? I don't even remember.
She
flies in them.
Reawakened the spirit of Rava within Vatu. like I said, Rava said that even if I destroy Vatu, a little piece of him will always live inside of me.
That was clear to you?
How did she
clear to you?
Do that?
Yes, I don't know how she did it.
She just randomly floats down.
She knew something was wrong. She knew she had to do something in the spirit world, and then somehow she just...
But I feel like we're missing, like, so much information. Like, what did she...
I don't know.
Okay. So then Korra fucking... what's it called? Visions the bad guy and goes inside of him, pulls out Rava. But again, she was a massive fucking laser monster even without Rava. How did she turn into a massive laser monster without Rava? Because
I guess the spirits helped her? Is that what the implication is?
No, the spirits were attacking her at that time. Remember? Because Tenzin and everyone else were defending the tree as the spirits attacked.
So the tree spirit helped her?
Because the only reason that Unalaq even turned into a giant laser monster is because he combined with Vatu and became the Dark Avatar. And then for some reason he got laser powers that the other Avatar never had.
I have a question.
We have all the questions.
After Unalaq and the bad kite guy,
that was a bad kite.
Was he able to bend the elements?
No, just water.
Okay.
Yeah, because he had never learned.
But shouldn't he be able to bend all the elements?
He had never trained.
Because Korra was what is it?
The lion turtles gave the elements to Rava, and when they fused, Wong got all of them. And so, Unalaq, that's what happened. Unalaq only had water.
Wow.
Vatu didn't have any of the other elements, so that he didn't have the other elements. Unalaq.
But he got to become a giant laser monster.
Right, but when Rava was ripped out of Korra, then she no longer had the ability to bend anything else but water, right?
No, she still had all four elements. The lion turtles never said that it was impossible for one person to have all
just
four.
Not
they
at the same time.
They said that it was
never done.
They say it was never that it has never been done that one person held more than.
But the
one
only reason, the only way he was able to hold all four was because he fused with Rava. Because Rava held them for him.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
But now Rava's pulled out.
It was never. Okay, yes, but it was never explicitly said that they couldn't hold more than one. Okay, so they had. Rava had it, they fused, and so now every other person is just able to do it now.
Okay, no, but I want to pump the brakes on this right now. Hold on. I want to wait. We need to pump the brakes. I want to make sure that this is being understood about what's being said, because I myself feel like I'm getting lost. So we can slow down a little bit. Okay, so Peter is saying, and at least this was my impression, in that, and that. The only way the Avatar was able to even bend all of the elements was because Rava held them and that they fused together. David, what you're saying is that that may be a common held belief, was never explicitly or technically stated, and that the potential exists in any person to master the elements. It's just very rare, if hardly done at all. Okay, but why is it
rare or hardly done? It had never been done.
Okay, but why does the world then treat the Avatar as the only person that can bend all four elements and no one else does?
Because nobody else did after that.
But I feel like it's presented in the way that no one else could.
The only reason he was able to do it was because the Rava spirit within him gave him the power to not die by holding all four. Once Rava is pulled out, the ability to hold all four is lost. Or at least that's how it technically should be according to their rules set up.
We don't know that because, again, a spirit cannot go into a human.
But it did.
So when
Rava
she goes in. No, but only for a little bit.
For all time. They were fused. For 10,000
before
years.
That. Before they fused. But before they fused, though, it's like whenever she would go into
she would pass through him.
It was... Or pass through, yes. But, like, she would only give them one. And that was the rule that the Lion Turtle said. It's like, I'll give it to Rava, but you need to master all of them to before you can learn another one or have them all, or basically.
I feel like the fact that we're even having this debate makes it clear that the show didn't do the job it needed to explain all of this. Am I right there? Because
right.
I feel like...
But I mean, I understand what David is saying.
I understand what he's saying too, and perhaps that may be the point of view of Konietzko and DiMartino. I don't deny that. But at the same time, I feel like there's enough in the show that goes against that. I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of like thrown in a loop here. What show did I just watch?
David, if I grant you that, okay, I'm not, but if I do, how do you explain that she is able to turn into a giant blue laser monster without Rava?
Or any of the spirits, since they're technically trying to kill her, right? I thought it was the tree spirit that helped her do it.
It kind of wasn't the tree. It was that she is now fully, like, spiritually, like, at peace, basically. Like Janora. She's able to cross, like, in and out of the spirit world, like, whenever she could have. The way the
way Uncle Iroh did.
It was something like that, basically. As to how she turned into a giant blue person, I really don't know. But, like, that is her spirit, though. That's how strong it is. And that's kind of what they were trying to go for in this season, is that she is this super powerful being, but she's
so powerful she doesn't need the very spirit that gave her power.
No, hold on. Sorry, no, that was a horrible example. What I was trying to go for is that what they were trying to go for this season, at least with her character and with Tenzin, almost, I guess I'll just focus on Korra, is that she's already mastered the Avatar stage. She already mastered the elements. But she's holding herself down, trying to live up to Aang. And then when she finds out about Wan, about what he did, now she's trying to live up to him. And it's Tenzin that when he realizes, after the fog, he's like, don't try to live up to them. Like, you're special in your own way. And so her becoming this blue spirit, that's her kind of going, having these elements, having Rava did not define me who I am. Does not define that I am the Avatar. I am just a powerful person myself that I can do this on my own, with my own spirit, with my own power within me. And like that's the spirits that they were trying to go for.
This is where I ask myself, did we watch the same episode?
I don't know. Like, she does look up to Aang, but I don't think she ever suffered an identity.
You mean Tenzin?
An identity crisis about, like, I can't live up to Aang, or I can't live up to... I don't really think so.
She doubts herself the entire show. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
I think he's talking about specifically toward Aang.
But it's not specifically towards anyone else. It's more of her own self, where she gets... I don't know.
Well, maybe using Aang wasn't the right word, but like just to live up to expectations, everybody else's expectations of what.
That.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and the reason why I said Aang is because, she wanted to become the Avatar. Like, and I don't know if I explained it in the last episode, but she does want to be this big hero of the world, just like Aang.
Yeah.
So that's why I said that she wants to live up to Aang. It's just that she wants to do it by becoming a hero instead of...
But I guess if your ultimate conclusion to that is she inexplicably turns into a big blue monster and kicks ass anyways, I don't know. Like, I feel like the first half of the season just handled it so much better, where she did want to be the hero and come in and fix everything, but it ended up being so much more complicated, and simply punching or she couldn't punch or bend her way out of it. She'd have to look deeper within herself to properly address the problem. Whereas this at the end, it's just like, we took away all your powers, but not really technically, because you can still have all the power to turn into a big blue laser monster.
You said that people had issues with the first half and not the second half?
Well, because people love Juan and they love laser shows. I don't know. I still don't know what Janora did.
Okay, so that's why I have here a list of questions. This was published on the AV Club. This critic reviewed this episode when it first aired years and years ago. And these are the questions that they had. Thing I didn't understand, number 1. Rava gets... There's a list of these. Rava gets sucked out of Korra, then smacked to death? How did that happen? Which some of this Peter may have already brought up here. Thing I didn't understand, number 2. Dark Avatar powers seem to have a lot more specific bonuses than Avatars, like the power of vines and being a giant glowy guy and shooting big blasty beams out of your chest.
Yeah, why he has that
was
power,
only because... Well, that was only because Rava got destroyed, remember? So in the origin story, the more spirits became evil,
but then the opposite,
the more smaller Rava got,
should be true. And since Vatu gets destroyed at the end, shouldn't that mean that moving forward, since the great evil is destroyed, that Korra should be able to turn into a big glowing monster whenever she wants?
Again, though, we don't really know that she destroyed Vatu. She didn't destroy him the way Vatu destroyed Rava.
I feel like we're going in a circle. We're waggling the same. We're circling the same thing
David
here. I don't even know.
With me.
Okay,
I know this.
Thing I didn't understand, number 3. Hey, did anybody notice that it looked like Korra airbends herself up into the tree of time? Wouldn't she be back to just being a waterbender? I know, David, you're kind of already addressed that.
We went into that already.
Yeah, thing I didn't understand, number 4. This quoting, I think Boomy may have said this. What did you say to her exactly? I imagine that Tenzin's response to that was, "I have no idea, but but glad it worked." I was baffled. I was as baffled as Boomy when giant blue Korra climbed out of the tree, and it didn't become much clearer by the end of the episode, aside from vague spiritual mumbo jumbo made it so. Though giant Korra stomping around Republic City solving problems by kneeing them in the face and then throwing them into a mountain was sort of the perfect encapsulation of her personality, I tried going through the timeline to see if I was missing some sort of cause and effect. Yeah.
No question.
The Tree of Time, as far as I can tell, it acts... I'm sorry, somebody was saying something?
No question about Janora?
There is. No, there is.
Okay.
There is. But I was just... Already I'm like, thing I didn't understand, number 4. Here it is. What the hell happened with Janara? I legit thought she'd blown herself up for the good of the world for a hot second, but no. No dead kids on Nickelodeon. What did she do? I haven't the slightest idea other than be a special spirit kid. Seriously, I don't have a clue. Anybody know?
Again, I don't know how she did what she did, but I know what she did.
Because
I mean, I guess you could kind of say it's like, when people have like a sixth sense type of thing, she can I mean, not that she can like do that, but what I'm saying is that she can be like super connected to the spirit world. Again, I don't know about the whole glowy thing, but I mean, that's just you just kind of
because at one point,
but
she goes away from Tenzin and she's like, my the Force is telling me that Korra's gonna need my help, so she just runs off into the spirit world, and I assumed like they would come back to her at some point and see what she's doing, but just fucking randomly in the middle of the fight, she floats down like encapsulated in light, and then she explodes. And then it's like, oh, okay. She did it. I don't...
No,
what did she do? How
It's-
did she do it? Why did she... I don't know. Oh, that was so weird. And then I guess the thing is, like,
Oh,
Korra pulls out the good spirit, but what was stopping what's his name from, I don't know, when just turning around and pulling out the bad spirit again? Like, they could have just gone back and forth pulling each other's spirits out.
well, he had to do the thing that Jinora did.
Oh, he didn't have
Which
he didn't
is
have a
still-
Jinora. That's right.
Yeah. And also, to explain how he turned into a giant monster, basically, and how Korra didn't turn that way, it could have just been Rava herself not wanting to do that. Because I can definitely understand Vaatu being like, all right, she's gone. Let's turn into this giant motherfucker and destroy this world. Whereas Rava could have been like...
I feel like we've gone beyond the point of what's on the episode, and we're just trying to justify what happened. I don't think a lot of these answers are there, to be quite frank. Maybe they are, but they're not that clear. One issue I had with the second half of the season, as far as a choreography standpoint, I felt the action to be so much less interesting because everybody was just... It was a light show. It was just lasers back and forth. It just it became kind of the same by the end of, like, this was like what, the last 2 episodes. I don't know. It felt a little like over my head. I mean, in general, everything here was over my head, but the fighting itself I felt was so uninteresting. I don't know.
Yeah. I think the first season definitely had more memorable fights. Like, I'm trying to remember any of the fights in this season.
A question here.
Lynn wasn't there.
Yeah, I know, that's a different issue altogether. So when this episode ends, the season ends, then there is this question that, I gotta be honest, it kind of came out of nowhere for me, and I really want to know if you guys were expecting this to happen. But the question of, what if humans and spirits weren't meant to live apart? I guess they kind of toy with that when they introduce Juan and everything, and how they separated them in the first place. But when Korra up and decides, no, I'm going to keep the portals open, I don't know. It felt like that came out of nowhere for me.
Well, because the story was no longer about the spirits. It was about fighting the great evil, and then it's like, oh yeah, I guess this whole story kicked off because there was unusual spirit activity because they weren't using the land correctly, and da-da-da-da. Again, they try to mash 2 completely different stories together, and it's just so wonky and weird. Like the vine powers, a part of me feels like that's a leftover from, again, the message of the spirits sort of going crazy, sort of an environmental reason as well as spiritual, and it's kind of a leftover of that. But it doesn't make sense because Vaatu just represents evil. Like, I guess vines are evil? Like, I don't know. And it's the same thing with the spirit, opening the spirit portals. That could have been, like, in a different universe where, like, season 2 was a lot better. That could have been, like, the great uniting, I don't know, factor that would end the Civil War, so to speak, and bring both sides to sort of a happy medium. I don't know. But here it's just kind of like, I guess spirits are pretty cool. Yeah, let's open it up. Shall we? I don't know. Yeah, it's just such an afterthought. I don't know.
One interesting point that this critic pointed out, Asami got 1 line in this episode.
She was in the episode?
I know, I forgot. I think she was at the end with Katara, I think, because they were looking after Janara's body, right? Because she had still not... No, wait.
Yeah.
Was it
She was
Janara?
with Janora.
Okay, because the other airbenders were back on Airbender Island.
Yeah, they were.
Right?
They were on Airbender Island.
Okay. Right. Okay. Wow.
What a season.
I know. I
just I don't know. Like I said last episode, I understand people like not liking them, except for like those that are just because she's a girl, like whatever, you're fucking stupid. But like people's complaints about it, like genuine complaints.
Yeah.
Like I understand what you guys are saying too. Like it's very confusing and stuff, and it's it's like different for everybody. But I totally forgot where I was going with it.
I mean, at no point did I feel like angry about it. More or less, when I was watching this, I was, especially the last few episodes, or the last two, I was kind of confused by it, mostly. But even then, there was a lot of strong elements in the season.
Oh, I remember.
Guess?
But I feel bad for the creators or whoever made this, because I feel like they genuinely like wanted to tell the story and do it justice, and they just like did not have that and were not given the opportunity to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they got screwed so many times.
I mean, which time? That's kind of the ongoing joke in their life, kind of, or at least the joke's on them. They keep getting really screwed in that sense. I feel like when you take a step back and you find out that this could have been the last season, you see evidence of, well, yeah, they wanted to throw this in there. I don't know. I think this is clearly the least, at least the weakest season. I think there are significant deficiencies. I mean, look, we haven't talked about Bolin kind of at all. Mako and Asami were afterthoughts. There were a lot of lingering issues throughout the season that very easily make it the weakest of the four. And it is very, very ambitious. But I'm not left feeling angry overall. And I think it is very largely saved by the fact that the next two seasons were a significant step up in quality. Because if this had been the last season, dear God, we would have maybe have gone through another situation where the ending kind of leaves people cold. Yeah. Anybody else have any other thoughts to say before we close today?
No.
I really liked the first season, obviously. We talked about this. And the second season left me very conflicted and ultimately slightly more negative. Again, I really think it came down to the creators just getting fucked by Nickelodeon so many times. Because, again, I thought the first season was good. This season just really dropped the ball. But these next two seasons, I really, really enjoy. So, yeah. I definitely have my issues, but it's not enough to change my entire view of the show.
In fact, in this critic review that I have open, they mention here that Nickelodeon aired the finale of this season. They changed the time slot on such short notice, like at the last minute. Oh, instead of it being on this time, the finale airs earlier. In fact,
wow, they fucking suck.
Yeah. So
It's so incredible that they did not just like got up and left. It's too many things.
Yeah.
I'm glad they didn't, because we wouldn't have gotten the last 2 seasons, but shit.
No, I mean, the last 2 seasons really are kind of the show's bread and butter. Going forward, but yeah, I feel this would be the most negative we get with the series. But thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for listening. We have a lot of content coming your way. We still have 2 more episodes to finish off Legend of Korra. And our regular news shows, which are always filled with such death and tragedy and, things burning down. So stay tuned for those. Mulan month on Fantasy Fair is coming. And then in October, a lot of scary stuff. We want to do commentaries for The Shining and Doctor Sleep. And we also want to dive into Mike Flanagan's Haunting series on Netflix, coming soon, of which we're all looking forward to. But thank you, Alexis and David and Peter, for your unfiltered and honest thoughts here. It didn't get as explosive, surprisingly. We usually get more, mean. But I don't know, maybe it's the spirit of...
Maybe we're just so confused.
Maybe. I'll be honest, I kind of got lost a couple of times this last hour, but that is kind of the nature of it. But anyway, catch us every Sunday and sometimes on Thursdays under our spotlight. Until next time, bye-bye.